Facts. A Mystrikal Perspective. A plain guide to what facts are, how we can find them, how we can get them wrong, and how to speak honestly when the evidence is not complete. Facts can sound like the easiest part of thinking. Something happened or it did not. Something is there or it is not. A number is right or wrong. Real life is messier. We often hear about a fact through another person, a screen, a record, a measuring tool, or a memory. The words may be vague, the record may be wrong. The number may be accurate but misleading. Two people may be arguing about different parts of the same issue without noticing. Mystrikism starts with a simple commitment. Reality gets the final say. What we want, fear, or strongly believe does not decide what is real. At the same time, Mystrikism accepts that people can be mistaken. Our senses are limited, our tools can fail, our language can confuse things, our conclusions must stay open to correction. So this is not a document of final answers. It is a plain guide to facts, what they are, how we can find them, how we can get them wrong, and how to speak honestly when the evidence is not complete. The short version is this. A fact is something that is actually the case. A claim is what somebody says is the case. Evidence is what helps us judge the claim. A belief is the position a person takes toward the claim. A good conclusion fits the evidence and stays open to revision. That is the Mystrikal starting point. One shared reality, honest methods, confidence that matches the support, and no shame in saying, I do not know yet. Part 1. A fact is not the same as a claim. Imagine that a blue bicycle is locked to rack number 7 outside a library. The bicycle is an object. Its being locked to that rack is a fact about how things are arranged. The sentence, the blue bicycle is locked to rack 7, is a claim. A photo, a security recording, a lock record, or a person who saw it may give us evidence. Your acceptance of the claim is a belief. These things are connected, but they are not the same. A claim does not become a fact because it is said loudly. A fact does not vanish because nobody knows it. Evidence does not become the fact itself. A record can describe what happened, but a record can also be incomplete or wrong. This gives us 4 useful questions. What is supposed to be the case? What exactly is the claim? What support is being offered? How strong should our belief be? Keeping those questions apart prevents a lot of confusion. Reality does not need our permission. Suppose a sealed storage locker contains either a guitar or no guitar. Before anybody opens the door, the locker is already in some condition. Our uncertainty does not leave the inside waiting to be created by our decision. Opening the locker changes what we know. It does not usually change what was already inside. The same applies when many people are confident. A whole group can remember an event incorrectly. A popular rumor can be false. A true claim can be ignored for years. Agreement can be useful because other people may catch our mistakes, but agreement itself does not make reality. That is why phrases such as "my facts" are risky. People can have their own memories, opinions, experiences, and evidence. They can use words in different ways. But two opposite claims about the same thing, at the same time and in the same sense, cannot both match one reality. If one person says the community pool was open at 6 p.m. and another says it was closed at 6 p.m., we should first check the date, which entrance they mean, whether a private lesson was running, and what open means. The disagreement may disappear once the details are clear. If all the details match and the claims still oppose each other, both cannot be right. Facts are not the same as certainty. We can be uncertain about a real fact. We can also be certain about something false. Certainty is a feeling or level of confidence. A fact is about how reality is. Strong confidence should be earned, not treated as proof. Mystrikism is realist because it holds that reality exists and pushes back against bad descriptions. It is fallibilist because it accepts that any human conclusion may need correction. Those two ideas belong together. Reality matters enough that we should let it correct us. Truth belongs to claims. In everyday language, a claim is true when things are as the claim says. The claim, "The bicycle is at rack 7, is true if the bicycle really is there in the relevant place and time. When mystriks say that truth is provisional, the careful meaning is that our understanding and our statements are provisional. Reality itself is not temporary because we are unsure. The facts do not wait for us to finish checking them. Our best description today may be improved tomorrow. That does not mean reality changed. It may mean our description got better. Part 2. Words, context, and point of view. Even a true claim can go wrong if it is too vague. Consider the claim, "The pool is open." Open when? Open to everybody, or only to a booked class? Is the front gate open while the water area is closed? A short sentence may hide the time, place, group, and meaning needed to check it. This is not a trick. Context is part of what a claim says. The claim, "The trail is 10 kilometers long," may mean 10 kilometers from the official start to the finish. A walker who takes the side loop may travel farther. A maintenance worker may measure every bend more exactly than the public sign does. One figure can be useful for planning and still be too rough for another job. We should therefore ask, what time and place does the claim cover? Which people or things does it cover? How exact is it meant to be? Which meaning of an important word is being used? Context does not make truth a matter of taste. It gives the claim proper coordinates. Once those details are settled, reality still decides whether the claim fits. A useful description can leave things out. No description includes everything. A menu tells you what meals a cafe sells. It does not list the age of every chair, the wiring inside the walls, or the life story of the cook. Those missing facts do not make the menu dishonest. They are simply not needed for its job. But selection has limits. A menu that labels a peanut sauce as nut-free is not saved by saying, "Every description leaves things out." Leaving out unrelated details is normal. Leaving out a detail that changes the meaning can be dangerous. The same is true of models, diagrams, reports, and summaries. A good one leaves out what does not matter to its purpose while keeping what does. A bad one hides or changes something important. Objectivity does not mean having no point of view.
Nobody sees from nowhere. Every person has a location, history, body, training, and set of limits. That does not make fair checking impossible.
Imagine a fun run using timing chips. One organizer likes a certain runner, another dislikes them. Their feelings should not decide the finishing time. The chip record, a second clock, and the finish line video can be compared. The method reduces the effect of personal preference. This is a practical kind of objectivity. It does not require a perfect person. It requires a method that makes bias easier to detect and correct. Useful protections include clear rules decided before the result is known, tools that have been tested and checked, more than one independent source, records that others can inspect, people with different interests checking the same work. A clear way to correct mistakes. Objectivity is not magic. It is organized fairness toward the evidence. Personal experience can be factual. Some facts depend on a person's experience. If soup tastes bitter to you, then the bitter taste is a real part of your experience. Another person may not taste it in the same way. That does not mean every explanation of the experience is true. The bitterness might come from the ingredients, a medicine you take, an illness, a burnt pan, or a change in your sense of taste. This tastes bitter to me, and the cook added a bitter chemical are different claims. The first may be directly known through experience. The second needs further checking. This distinction matters when somebody is frightened, in pain, or confused. We can take the experience seriously without agreeing with the first explanation offered for it. Care and reality checking are not enemies. Calling something subjective should never mean not real. It means the fact involves the point of view or experience of a subject. Pain, color experience, nausea, comfort, and fear are physically realized experiences of living beings. They can be genuine even when other people cannot feel them from the inside. Part 3. One natural reality, many kinds of facts. Not every fact exists in the same way. Some facts are straightforwardly physical. A gate is metal, a freezer is below zero, a branch has fallen. Some facts concern experience. A person feels dizzy. Some depend on shared rules and institutions. A ticket gives its holder seat 14B at a concert. Some describe larger patterns made from many smaller physical events. A football team is pressing high up the field. Mystrikism treats all of these as parts of one natural reality. It does not add a second supernatural realm to explain minds, meaning, or society. Social facts are real too. A concert ticket is a piece of paper or a digital record. Its power to let you enter comes from shared rules, booking systems, staff, and the organization running the event. Deleting the email does not necessarily cancel the booking. The seat may still be yours in the organizer's system. On the other hand, a database error might assign the same seat to two people. The official record can have real effects and still be wrong. Social facts depend on people and practices, but that does not make them imaginary. Appointments, licenses, debts, contracts, elections, job titles, and game scores can change what happens in the world. They can open doors, move money, grant powers, or create duties. They are also changeable. A club can alter its rules. A court can overturn a decision. A country can replace a law. The correct question is not, was this made by people? The better questions are, which rules are in force? Who has authority? What do the records show? And are those records accurate? An institutional fact can also be unfair. The rule says this does not mean the rule is good. Facts about a system tell us what it does. Ethical judgment asks whether it treats people well and fairly. A larger pattern can still be physical. Think about a football match. At one level, there are muscles, nerves, grass, a ball, and physical movement. At another, a defender closes space, a midfielder creates an overlap, and the team changes shape. At another, the score affects the league table. These descriptions do not compete. They answer different questions about the same natural events. Mystrikism currently accepts provisional naturalistic physicalism. In plain words, we presently understand everything that exists as physical or as existing through physical processes. We do not have good reason to add an independent non-physical substance. Mystrikism is also non-dualist. It does not split a person into a physical body and a separate, immaterial mind or soul. Thinking, feeling, and consciousness arise through physical living systems, especially brains, bodies, and their surroundings. This position is firm enough to guide inquiry and modest enough to be revised if strong evidence requires it. Breaking things down without explaining them away. Reductionism is the method of looking at a complicated thing through its parts, their organization, and their interactions. For example, a choir performance can be studied through air pressure, vocal cords, hearing, memory, timing, and the actions of many singers. Learning those physical details does not make the song disappear. It helps explain how the performance happens. Reduction is not the same as saying, nothing but. A story stored on a phone is physically realized in electronic states, but a list of those states will not tell an ordinary reader why the ending is sad. The higher-level description is useful because it shows the pattern that matters to the question. Mystrikism also uses emergence in a careful way. When many physical parts are organized together, the whole can show patterns or abilities that a single part does not show. No one singer performs the full harmony alone. The harmony appears through their organized activity. This is epistemological emergence, a reminder about our present level of explanation and what descriptions are useful. It is not a claim that a new supernatural substance has appeared. Mystrikism keeps investigating how the higher-level pattern is physically produced. One natural reality can therefore contain facts about cells, people, teams, markets, laws, memories, and music. We do not need one vocabulary for every purpose, and we do not need magic to make larger patterns real. Part 4. Facts come in different shapes. The kind of claim affects the kind of evidence we need. This magpie dropped a twig beside the fountain at noon is about one event. All magpies do this is about every member of a group. One clear observation might support the first claim. It cannot by itself prove the second. Words such as all, none, always, and never make very large claims. One real exception can defeat a strict all claim. Many matching cases may support a general pattern without proving there can be no exception anywhere. Facts about relationships. Some facts concern how things relate. The bakery is closer to the station than the post office. This charger fits that tablet. Priya trained Max. These facts cannot be understood by looking at only one item. Relations do not all follow the same rules. If Priya is older than Max, and Max is older than Lee, Priya must be older than Lee. But if Priya admires Max, and Max admires Lee, it does not follow that Priya admires Lee. Similar-looking sentences can support very different conclusions. Logic helps us check whether the step from one claim to another is allowed. Facts about the past. Past events cannot usually be run again. If an old furniture factory burned down decades ago, investigators cannot replay the fire. They can still compare fire brigade logs, insurance papers, newspaper photos, building plans, soot patterns, damaged objects, and witness accounts. They can ask when each record was made, who made it, what the person could know, and whether separate reports really came from separate sources. A past event does not need to repeat for the investigation to be careful. Different people can inspect the surviving traces and challenge each other's work. Strong historical conclusions often come from several independent lines of support pointing the same way. Facts about what is missing. Negative claims need boundaries. There is no first aid kit might mean there is none in the van, none in the building, or none that can be reached quickly. A careful claim says where people looked, when they looked, and what counted as a kit. Not finding evidence can count against a claim when the evidence should have been easy to find. Suppose somebody says a large diesel generator is running inside an empty warehouse. We would expect noise, vibration, exhaust, warmth, and fuel use. If suitable checks find none of these, that strongly counts against the claim. But if somebody claims a tiny radio beacon is sending a weak signal from far away, an ordinary phone failing to detect it tells us little. The phone may not be capable of finding it. So, we found nothing is useful only when we ask, would this method probably have found something if the claim were true? Either-or claims. Sometimes we know that one of two possibilities is true without knowing which one. A theater's sign-out sheet may show that a missing costume is either in the wardrobe room or at the laundry. That does not let us choose the wardrobe room because it is more convenient. The honest answer remains one of these two, until more evidence settles it. This sounds obvious, but people often slide from A or B to the option they already prefer. Statistical facts. Some facts describe groups and chances rather than guaranteed outcomes. If 8 out of 10 buses on a route arrived within 5 minutes of schedule last month, that is a fact about those trips under the way on time was defined. It does not promise that the next bus will be on time. An average also does not describe every person or event. If the average queue at a service desk is 6 minutes, some people may wait 1 minute and others 20. We need the spread, the time of day, and the number of observations to understand what the average tells us. Base rates can change the meaning of a result. Imagine a factory uses a scanner to find a rare crack in ceramic plates. Only one plate in 1,000 is cracked. The scanner catches nearly every cracked plate, but it also wrongly flags one good plate in every 100. If the scanner flags a plate, it may still be more likely to be good than cracked. That is because good plates are far more common to begin with. The scanner's accuracy cannot be understood without the starting rate of cracks. This is why a large-looking percentage can mislead. We need the starting number, the comparison group, the time period, and the actual number of cases. Probability is not a promise. A probability is a careful way of describing chance or uncertainty. It is not a hidden guarantee. There is a 30% chance is incomplete unless we know. A chance of what? During which period? For which group? Using which information and which method? Good statistical communication gives the denominator and the limits. It does not use a percentage as decoration. Logical and mathematical facts. Some claims are checked by proof and valid reasoning rather than by going outside to observe another object. If every square is a rectangle and a floor tile is square, then it follows that the tile is a rectangle. Logic tells us what follows if the starting claims are true. It does not tell us whether the tile is really square. That part needs observation or measurement. Mathematics gives us reliable results inside systems of definitions and rules. It is a powerful natural tool used by natural minds. Its success does not by itself prove a supernatural realm, and disagreement about what numbers ultimately are does not make arithmetic a matter of personal taste. We should check both parts of an argument. Do the starting claims match reality? Does the conclusion properly follow from them? A neat argument with a false starting point can still lead us wrong. What could happen is not the same as what did happen. A phone may be rated to survive shallow water for a limited time, even if it has never been dropped in water. That is a claim about a capacity. It is supported by its design, materials, and testing. The phone could have survived does not mean the phone did survive. If the seal had been fitted correctly, the phone would probably have stayed dry, is a claim about what would have happened under different conditions. Claims about possibilities, capacities, and what-if situations can be sensible. They need support from known processes, good models, and relevant comparisons. They should not be confused with reports of actual events. Part 5. Data, Measuring, and Evidence. Facts, objects, events, and data are not the same thing. Suppose a forklift moves through a cold store doorway. The forklift is an object. Its crossing the doorway is an event. A sensor entry at 3:42 p.m. is data about that event. The forklift entered the cold room at 3:42 is a claim based on the sensor entry. The claim may be right. It may also be too strong. Perhaps a loose pallet triggered the sensor. Perhaps the sensor clock was wrong. Perhaps the record came from another doorway. Data matter, but data need interpretation. Measuring is a physical process. A number does not drop straight out of reality. It is produced through a tool, a procedure, and a definition. Imagine a bakery oven says 190 degrees, but the rolls near the back keep burning. The display may be working perfectly at the sensor's location, while the oven heats unevenly. The issue may be calibration, sensor placement, airflow, or what the baker means by the oven temperature. A good measurement report should tell us what was measured, which tool was used, where and when it was measured, how exact the tool is, whether the tool was checked, what could have affected the result. More decimal places do not automatically mean more truth. A kitchen timer showing 4.000 minutes is not necessarily more accurate than one showing 4 minutes. Precision on the screen can be greater than the accuracy of the device. Evidence earns weight. It does not own it. Evidence is anything that genuinely helps us judge whether a claim is true. Suppose a swipe card log says Layla entered a laboratory at 8:12, but Layla says she was at home. The log is evidence. It is not a final answer. Other possibilities include a borrowed card, a wrong timestamp, a duplicated card, or a system error. A corridor camera, a second door log, a computer sign-in, and other people's accounts could help separate those explanations. Good evidence does more than fit one story. It helps us choose between competing stories. The weight of evidence depends on the claim. A friend's message may be enough to believe that tonight's board game session has moved rooms. It is not enough to prove that a new chemical is safe for workers. Higher stakes and broader claims usually need stronger checking. A practical test for evidence. Without turning this into a special named formula, we can ask plain questions. Where did this information come from? Could the source know what it claims to know? Was the method suitable? Can somebody else check the record or repeat the test where that makes sense? Does another independent source agree? Does the evidence actually bear on this claim? What important information is missing? What else could explain the same result? What finding would show the claim is wrong? Is the person showing enough of the method for mistakes to be found? No single question settles every case. Together they help us separate strong support from impressive-looking noise. Checking, repeating, and bringing evidence together. Different kinds of checking do different jobs. Checking a receipt against the shop's sales record is not the same as repeating a laboratory test. Rerunning the same computer analysis checks whether the same steps give the same output. A new team doing a fresh study asks whether the result holds beyond the first group. Several different methods pointing to the same answer give stronger support because their weaknesses may not be the same. Perfect repetition is not always possible. We cannot repeat a factory fire or a person's childhood. We can still check records, compare sources, and test the methods used to study the surviving traces. The aim is not ritual. The aim is to make error easier to find. Part 6. Belief, Knowledge, and Earned Trust. A fact can exist without anybody knowing it. Knowledge is our successful contact with what is the case, supported in a responsible way. That responsible support matters. Somebody can guess the right answer for the wrong reason. A person who picks the winning team because of a lucky sock may end up correct, but the sock did not give them knowledge of the result. In ordinary life, we often use the word knowledge when the support is strong enough for the job. We do not need impossible certainty. We need good reasons, honest limits, and a willingness to correct the claim if better evidence appears. Belief has more than two positions. We do not have to jump between complete acceptance and complete rejection. We can accept a claim with high confidence, lean toward it with some doubt, remain genuinely unsure, withhold belief because the support is too weak, reject it because strong evidence points the other way. The reasonable position depends on the evidence. Confidence should rise and fall with the support. Mystrikism treats any defended position as answerable for its reasons. This includes belief, disbelief, non-belief, and suspended judgment once a person presents that stance as the sensible one. The responsibility is shared, but it is not identical. A person claiming that a missing stage microphone is definitely in rehearsal room 12 needs evidence for that location. A person claiming it is definitely not in the theater needs evidence covering the theater. A person saying, "I am not ready to decide," may need only to show that the available information does not settle the matter. The kind and difficulty of the support depend on the content, scope, confidence, consequences, access to evidence, and how detectable the thing should be. Someone who has never heard the claim may simply have no developed view. That is different from arguing that non-belief is the best supported position after considering it. The common rule is accountability, not identical proof for unlike positions. Trust people for the right reasons. Most of what we know comes partly from other people. We cannot personally test every food product, inspect every building, or master every field. Testimony can be good evidence. Expertise can make it much better. But an expert said so is not a magic spell. Suppose a building keeps losing power on one circuit. A licensed electrician who inspects the board, tests the wiring, and records the fault has better grounds than a stranger guessing from a photo. Their training, direct access, and suitable tools matter. We should also ask whether the expert is speaking inside their field, whether other qualified people agree, whether the method is visible, whether there are conflicts of interest, and whether the source corrects errors. Experts can be wrong. That is a reason to use good systems of review, not a reason to treat every opinion as equal. The answer to imperfect expertise is better checking and better comparison. Trust should be earned, limited, and open to revision. Part 7. Science builds and corrects. Factual claims. Science is one of our strongest ways of finding out about the natural world. It works well because it links ideas to observation, makes methods public, invites criticism, and allows results to be corrected. Science uses several kinds of statement. They do different jobs. An observation reports what was noticed or measured. A hypothesis is a testable proposed answer. A model is a useful representation used to explain, calculate, or predict. A theory is a broad, well-supported explanation that ties many findings together. A law describes a dependable relationship or pattern, often in mathematical form. These are not steps on a ladder where a hypothesis gets promoted into a theory and then into a law. A theory does not become a fact by changing its label. Each kind of statement has its own role. A simple example. A gardener notices that seedlings in one tray grow faster than those in another. That is an observation. They suggest that a new compost mix is causing the difference. That is a hypothesis. To test it, they use many similar seedlings, keep light and watering as alike as possible, randomly assign the compost mixes, measure growth the same way, and let somebody who does not know which tray is which record the heights. One trial may be suggestive. Repeated trials by other growers, in different conditions, can show whether the pattern is dependable. A useful model might then estimate how growth changes with the amount of compost, soil type, and temperature. At every stage, the conclusion can be stronger or weaker than the evidence. Science does not remove judgment. It disciplines judgment. A fact can be established before the full explanation. We may know that a machine makes a sharp clicking sound every 40 seconds before we know which part causes it. The repeated sound is a fact about the machine. The explanation remains open. Likewise, a pattern can be measured before a satisfying theory exists. Knowing that something happens and knowing why it happens are separate achievements. We should not turn "we do not yet know why" into "there is no natural explanation," or "any explanation is as good as another." An unanswered question is an invitation to investigate. Correction is a strength. Imagine several labs report that a food dye makes yeast grow faster. Later, another team notices that the dye samples came dissolved in different amounts of sugar solution. When the sugar is controlled, the effect disappears. The earlier reports may have honestly measured a pattern. They were wrong about the cause because a hidden difference traveled with the dye. This example is made up, but the lesson is ordinary science. A result can be corrected when better controls, better tools, larger samples, or fresh methods reveal a mistake. Changing a conclusion is not proof that facts do not exist. It is what we expect when fallible people are seriously trying to match reality. An honest correction should say, what the earlier claim was. What new information changed it? Which parts still stand? Which parts no longer stand? What remains uncertain? Quietly replacing a claim while pretending it was never made damages trust. Clear correction earns it. Science changing does not make it useless. Some people say science changes, so it cannot tell us facts. That is like saying a mechanic who finds and fixes a mistake proves that engines cannot be understood. Scientific conclusions vary in strength. Some are early and fragile. Others have survived many careful tests using different methods. A new paper does not give every settled claim a 50-50 chance of collapsing. The Mystrikal position is neither blind faith in science nor lazy distrust of it. We judge the actual evidence, the maturity of the field, the quality of the methods, and the amount of independent support. Part 8. True details can still mislead. A person does not have to invent a false sentence to create a false impression. They can choose only the true details that help their story. Suppose a railway company says, 98% of completed trips arrived on time. That may be true. But perhaps the company removes canceled trains from the category of completed trips. The statement is accurate inside its chosen group while hiding a large service problem. Or a cinema says attendance for a morning session rose by 50%. That sounds impressive. If attendance rose from 2 people to 3, the percentage is true, but the practical change is small. The cure is not to distrust every number. It is to ask for the frame around it. Useful questions include: what was included and excluded? What is the starting number? Which time period was chosen? Is this an average, a total, or a percentage? What comparison would give a fair picture? Is an important denominator missing? Facts do not explain themselves. Imagine a cafe's records show longer waits on Saturdays. Several explanations might fit. More customers arrive at once. Fewer staff are rostered. Large group orders are more common. The payment system slows down. Mobile orders are counted differently. The fact about longer waits does not choose the cause. We need more evidence that separates the possibilities. This is where stories can outrun facts. A person notices one detail and immediately adds a motive, a cause, and a villain. The original detail may be true, while the added story is poorly supported. Relevance matters. Every event has countless true details. Only some matter to the question. If a workshop drill overheats, the operator's shoe color may be a fact. It is probably irrelevant. The drill's age, ventilation, load, and maintenance history are more likely to help. Irrelevant truth can distract just as effectively as falsehood. Good reasoning asks not only, is this true, but also, does it help answer the question? Mistakes, lies, and manufactured evidence. False information can spread in different ways. A person may share something wrong because they honestly misunderstood it. Another may knowingly lie. A third may create a fake screenshot, edited recording, or made-up document to mislead. The response depends partly on which problem we face, but the checking habits are similar. Find the earliest available source. Inspect the full item rather than a clipped version. Check the date and surrounding events. Look for independent confirmation. Compare the claim with what the source actually shows. Check whether the image, voice, or document has been altered. Slow down when the content is designed to produce instant anger or delight. Artificially made media can look convincing. A clean image or confident voice is not enough. Source history, outside confirmation, and internal consistency matter more than polish. Records and power. Institutions decide what gets counted, which boxes exist on a form, whose report enters the system, and how an error can be challenged. That gives records power. Suppose a deaf worker reports that an emergency alarm cannot be noticed from the storeroom because it has sound, but no visible signal. The system log says the alarm worked because it made the correct noise. Both facts matter. The alarm activated, and the worker could not receive the warning. A record designed around hearing employees can hide a real safety failure without containing an obvious false entry. Fair inquiry asks who may be missing from the data, who can correct the record, and whether the categories fit the lives being measured. Taking power seriously does not mean giving up on facts. It means improving the route by which facts enter public decisions. 9. Facts, values, and disagreement. Facts tell us what is the case. Values tell us what matters to us and what we think should be protected or pursued. They are connected, but one does not automatically turn into the other. Imagine a council is deciding whether to install brighter lights at a sports ground. Research can estimate energy use, cost, visibility, effects on nearby residents, and effects on nocturnal animals. Those are factual questions. The decision also depends on values, safety, recreation, sleep, care for other living things, fairness, money, and the amount of harm people are willing to accept. Data can reveal the likely trade-offs. It cannot choose the community's priorities by itself. That does not make ethics a wild guess. Mystrikism openly grounds ethics in values such as well-being, flourishing, autonomy, fairness, compassion, and reducing needless suffering for sapient beings, sentient life, and ecosystems. The choice to care about those ends has a subjective base. Valuing begins in the concerns of living subjects. Once the ends are stated, we can use methodologically objective ways to compare actions. We can measure injuries, health, freedom, access, suffering, environmental damage, and other outcomes. We can look for bias, listen to affected people, and correct failed policies. This is the Mystrikal blend: subjective grounding, open values, and discipline methods. We do not pretend that a measurement creates a moral goal. We also do not pretend that every way of pursuing a goal works equally well. One argument can hide several arguments. People may appear to disagree about a fact while actually disagreeing about something else. They may disagree about the meaning of a word, what happened, which source is trustworthy, what caused the event, how certain the conclusion should be, which fact matters most, what should be done next. Separating these questions makes a discussion calmer and more useful. Two neighbors may agree that noise from a venue reached a certain level. They may still disagree about whether that level is acceptable, how often it should be allowed, and whose needs deserve priority. Calling the whole dispute a fight about the facts hides the value choices. Everyone has their own truth. This phrase can mean something reasonable. Everybody has a personal story, viewpoint, and experience. It can also mean something false. Opposite claims about one shared situation are both true simply because different people prefer them. Mystrikism accepts the first meaning and rejects the second. People have their own experiences. They do not each receive a private universe. Part 10. A plane. Mystrikal way to handle a claim.
When an important claim appears, slow it down.
Suppose a phone company advertises, "This battery lasts all day." Instead of accepting or rejecting the slogan at once, work through the claim. Step 1. Make the claim clear. What counts as all day? 8 hours or 16? Is the phone mostly idle, streaming video, making calls, or running navigation? Is the battery new? Which screen brightness and network conditions are used? A claim that cannot be stated clearly cannot be checked clearly. Step 2. Ask what would count as evidence. A company test may help, but so could independent tests and real use under stated conditions. Testimonials show what happened to some people, not what will happen for everyone. Step 3. Check the route from reality to the claim. Which phone model was tested? How many times? Were the settings realistic? Were failed runs excluded? Is the method public enough to inspect? Step 4. Compare other explanations. If one reviewer gets poor battery life, the cause could be a faulty unit, an old battery, weak network coverage, background apps, or unusually heavy use. One result does not automatically prove the whole model is poor. Step 5. Match confidence to support. The evidence may justify usually lasts a normal workday under moderate use, rather than lasts all day for everyone. A narrower conclusion is often more honest and more useful. Step 6. State the limits. Say what has not been tested, which conditions matter, and what could change the conclusion. Step 7. Stay correctable. If better tests show a problem, update the claim. Do not protect the old wording because it is embarrassing to change. This simple habit works for much more than batteries. It can help with health claims, news reports, historical arguments, workplace disputes, product promises, and everyday rumors. The current Mystrikal position. Mystrikism holds the following positions provisionally, not as untouchable dogma. Reality exists independently of our wishes and limits what can be true. Human beliefs and methods can be wrong, so conclusions must remain open to correction. Strong belief, disbelief, non-belief, and suspended judgment should each have reasons suited to what they claim. Evidence should be judged by how well it connects the claim to reality, not by how impressive, comforting, or popular it looks. Objectivity is possible as a method of reducing bias, even though no person has a view from nowhere. Subjective experience is real and physically realized, while explanations of that experience need separate support. Social facts are real where shared rules, records, and practices make them real, though institutions and records can be wrong or unjust. Higher-level facts can be genuine and useful while remaining fully part of physical reality. Mystrikism presently accepts provisional naturalistic physicalism, non-dualism, epistemological reductionism, and a careful, non-magical use of emergence. Facts and values must be kept distinct without pretending they are unrelated. Ethics begins with openly held values and uses fair, evidence-based methods to pursue well-being, flourishing, autonomy, and reduce suffering. Science is our strongest organized method for learning about the natural world, but no individual paper, institution, or expert is beyond criticism. The unknown should be admitted, not stuffed with comforting invention. Mystrikal naturalized spirituality, always kept in quotation marks, finds awe in reality itself. Accurate description does not drain the world of wonder. Understanding how a choir makes harmony, how a living brain remembers, or how evidence can rebuild a lost event can make reality more astonishing. We do not need false certainty to feel meaning. We do not need the supernatural to feel awe. We do not need to pretend that every question has been answered. We need honesty about what is known, humility about what is not, compassion in how facts affect living beings, and the courage to let reality prove us wrong. That is not weakness. That is how we get less wrong.